Welcome back to the Citizen Kelly Show, my fellow citizens. I am happy, thankful, full of love and enthusiasm because, well, there's too many reasons to count. But the main one is that we prevailed. We succeeded. We ran Rahm out of the mayor's race. And when I say we, I mean we did it. We did that, my fellow citizens, okay? With the term limit Rahm referendum. Google it, okay? It was a perfect example of the left-right convergence. Myself and Governor Pat Quinn and obviously my fellow citizens turned in 86,000 signatures. That was, make no mistake about it, the final straw that ran Rahm out of the race. But you'll never hear that from the Chicago media, the Rahm media, right?
No.
So I had to go outside of Chicago in order to announce my campaign for mayor of Chicago. Play the clip from our friends at One America News.
Seems to me you go from Rahm Emanuel, you pick this guy off, and he decides not to run, which is probably a good thing for the people of the city of Chicago. And then you get Daley. Now it seems like you're going from the frying pan into the fire. Could it be that the people of Chicago would want to continue this dynasty, so-called, of the Daleys in the mayor's office?
Or the frying pan into the fire, back into the frying pan. Rahm, there's no doubt about it. Rahm was the worst thing that could have ever happened to the city of Chicago. And I'm very, very proud that we led a term limit the mayor referendum that I believe was the final straw that forced Rahm out of the mayor's race. I don't think that we worked as hard as we did to get rid of Rahm to let any other Democrat be mayor of the city of Chicago. As you mentioned, I'm the only Republican. We have 12 other Democrat candidates. And essentially, they're all talking about how much they hate Trump. They're all talking about how much they hate the police. I'm the only candidate that's talking about how much I love Chicago. I was born and raised in Chicago. I love Chicago with all of my heart. I was raised to believe that Chicago is the greatest city in the history of the world, and that being mayor of Chicago is the most important job in the world. And I think that it's time that Chicago needs a real disruptor, somebody who's actually going to open the books, expose the insider deals, balance the budget, Democrat, Republican. We need somebody who actually loves Chicago and is ready to put Chicago back on the right track.
Well, when you say love
let's just
Chicago,
leave it right there. Let's just, first of all, they did a great job. One American News, they do an outstanding job. As obviously we have our own Emmy award-winning TV production company, so I'm very, very critical of other TV and news outlets. But I have to say, One American News, they actually do a better job than a number of the major networks out there. If you want to scroll up just a little bit, I do want to also give a great plug for the Washington Times. The Washington Times has run a front page story that I wrote about the Chicago mayor's race. They changed the headline, though, which is their right to do. Their editors over there changed the headline to "What will Chicago do without Rahm?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, my only concern would be people might actually think that I'm asking that question.
As opposed to the sarcasm.
As opposed to, yeah, exactly.
The sarcasm which was intended to be.
But yeah, the answer is Chicago will rebuild after Rahm. And Rahm Emanuel was truly the worst thing that could have ever happened to Chicago, because any external attack against the city of Chicago would only bring the people of Chicago together, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is when you have someone who has a secret agenda. You see what I'm saying? That infiltrates and destroys from within. Which, by the way, is exactly what is currently happening and has been happening now to the Catholic Church. You have people who had an opportunity to essentially infiltrate,
right,
and destroy from within,
right.
And that's the real story of what's happening in the Catholic Church. And I guess it's up to us to tell that, to expose it and tell that story. So guess what? We're going to do it. But right now, we're first and foremost going to, we've done, I believe, another amazing job of exposing what Rahm Emanuel has actually been doing in the city of Chicago now. Okay. The city of Chicago, and by the way, where can people find that Washington Times article?
Yeah, they can find it at on your Facebook page at Citizen Kelly. They can find it on Twitter at William J. Kelly, and they can also find it at the WashingtonTimes.com opinion section.
There you go. And and in that article, we lay out exactly what Rahm has been desperately trying to keep secret in the city of Chicago for 8 years now. Not only through his appointed police chief. Okay, and by the way, I'm pro law enforcement. I'm probably more pro law enforcement than the average president of the FOP. You know, But the problem is that Rahm's appointed police chief has been doing a job to cover up for Rahm.
Right.
And what is the result? Get this. Hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of shootings and murders go unsolved.
Right.
Okay, there's a 17% clearance rate on murders. That is 1 in 20 murders. 1 in 20 murders is solved in the city of Chicago. Let that sink in. Let that sink in for a second. You know, people hear statistics all the time. I'm a numbers guy. You know what I mean? You know, I've devoted most of my life to studying numbers. My new passion is neuroscience. I was actually going to retire from radio. When I heard that Rahm was retiring from the mayor's race, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to devote the rest of my life to Krav Maga and neuroscience, because that's mind and body. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not for any other reason than just to try to become, to try to perfect my mind and my body. But then when I found out that all these Democrats were going to run and
basically
destroy the city
take
of Chicago.
over for Rahm.
Exactly right. That's when I said, no, I can study neuroscience in my spare time. I've got to save the city of Chicago once again. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I started by announcing my campaign, and of course the Chicago media won't report on it.
Right.
I'm asking my fellow citizens, look, focus on just one TV station, WTTW. They have a show called Chicago Tonight. They've had every Democrat candidate on that show. But Citizen Kelly, call WTTW, ask for the producer of Chicago Tonight, and demand that they have William J. Kelly on the show. Focus on one newspaper, Crane Chicago Business. You would think that Crane Chicago Business, I would be like Mr. Crane Chicago Business. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I'm the business guy. I'm the numbers guy. I'm the guy that wants, I have the plan to solve the budget, the pensions, put Chicagoans to work. But yet they won't even mention that I'm a candidate. Call Crane Chicago Business. Ask for the editor. Tell them to write about Citizen Kelly, the candidate for mayor who actually is pro-business. All these other candidates, they want to tax these businesses right out of Chicago, and that's what they've been doing. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. But there's another scandal that we exposed, and that is Rahm's Chicago Public School sex abuse scandal. For 8 years, hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of Chicago Public School students have been raped and abused. And guess what? Rahm didn't. This just is coming out now. Imagine that. Rahm doesn't run for re-election, and now it's coming out in my article in the Washington Times. Okay? And his appointed Chicago Public School president is still on the job. That is outrageous. And we have these Democrats like Dick Durbin, right? Our U.S. Senator Dick Durbin. You know what he says? We need to investigate Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court nominee. But he's saying nothing about investigating the Chicago Public School sex abuse scandal, which by any account is worse than than Kavanaugh or any of these other characters.
Well, the difference is there have been crimes, there have been rapes that have been committed against minors. Right. They're making an allegation, an unproven allegation against Kavanaugh.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And you know what? If it wasn't for the double standard that this Dick Durbin character exhibits, once I'm done, I'm going to tell you right now. Now that I've gotten rid of Rahm, I'm going to focus on this Dick Durbin character. We're going to get rid of him too, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the bottom line. If it wasn't for the double standards, Durbin would have no standards at all.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the only thing that this guy has going for him is the double standard.
Right.
Well, by Democrat standards, that's perfectly good. You know what? We're going to tell the story of Rahm you know how we're going to make sure that the story is told correctly, that we get the credit. We're going to write that story.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right. We have our own media empire. Thank you very, very much. Okay.
Right.
Not that I don't want Chicago tonight. Not that I don't want to be treated equally to these Democrats.
Right.
You know.
Well, basically, it's a contribution to their campaign,
Exactly right.
and actually it's since
Oh,
it is
speaking of contributions to the campaign,
right.
I'm going to ask my fellow citizens, and I mean this very sincerely, for
Right.
a one-time contribution, okay, of $20.19. The election is February of 2019. One-time contribution, $20.19. Go to williamjkelly.org, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find a PayPal there. And today, they will find the Washington Times article.
They will.
They will find the One American News story.
They will see it there
Video?
as well.
Well, then, you know what? After, I guarantee you, even my fellow citizens who still are maybe on the fence a little bit about Citizen Kelly for mayor, once you go to williamjkelly.org and you look and you read the article, there was a front page Citizen Washington Times, and the video from a little something called the One American News,
Mhm.
you will say, yep, this guy deserves $20.19 for services rendered.
Yeah.
Period. That is it. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
And you might even know I want to order yourself some Citizen Kelly Irish Ale and pick up a pair of these cool Citizen Kelly shades while you're at it.
I like them.
Thank you very much. I like them
Yeah.
too. And I'm very, 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 once again, happy, thankful, full of love and enthusiasm. We do everything with a spirit of love. That's what makes us different.
right.
Why do we do things? Love. When do we do things? Now. Okay. And that, it all goes back to neuroscience. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And one day I'm just going to do an entire show about neuroscience,
Mhm.
but, and people might be like, Citizen Kelly, why neuroscience? Why the fascination with neuroscience? You know, what does that have to do with our everyday life? Neuroscience is everyday life. Think about it. You know, think about how you feel when you hear a song like the Citizen Kelly theme song or campaign song. Think about how you feel. Think about how that makes you feel. Because you know the words to the Citizen Kelly theme song, don't you, G-Law?
I think so.
And, the thing that's so great about it is that even when Citizen Kelly's old and gray, he'll still be singing. What a day this has been. What a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being in love. There's a smile on my face for the whole mayor's race. Why, it's almost like being in love. All the music of life seems to be like a bell that is ringing for me. And from the way that I feel when that bell starts to peal, I could swear I was falling. I would swear, but I'm on the radio. Why, it's almost like being in love. And can I just say this, G-Law? I want to thank you for being here. You're very, very, very brave. These 8 years that we fought Rahm Emanuel, the most evil elected official, no, the most evil human being on planet Earth. That took a lot of courage. That took a lot of courage. The courage that none of these other candidates for mayor had. The courage that nobody in the Chicago media had. But my radio family, WCGO, had that courage. You, G-Law, my attorney, had that courage. I, obviously, with my vast knowledge of details, numbers, and neuroscience, had that courage. And now we are going to finish the job. William J. Kelly for mayor, williamjkelly.org. Please make a donation today, and we'll be back with more Citizen Kelly after this.